everybody. Welcome to the weekly news recap of the 30th of December to the 5th of January 2025. So, this week, as you might imagine, it's the first week back. There's not a whole lot happening, but one game did get an announcement. This is City of Voices. This is from one of the puzzle designers on Rise of the Golden Idol. As you can probably tell from the trailer, it is a very similar type of setup. You're given a kind of diorama or a scene or a couple of scenes and an event, and it's up to you to deduce, what happened during that area, who are all the people involved, figure out their names and all that kind of stuff. So it's still very much in the same realm as the Golden Idol type of thing. It's obviously not set in the same universe. It's a completely separate game. And it's also not maybe not as serious as the Golden Idol. It's definitely more of a more childish thing. Not childish, but it's not about murder, etc., and that kind of thing. Anyway, so that's City of Voices. There's no release date or anything planned for it, so it's just available for wishlist on Steam if you're into that kind of thing. Moving on, PlayStation Classic Studio says it's dreaming about a PS3 emulation. So this is coming from Implicit Conversions. Implicit Conversions are responsible for the vast majority of the PlayStation 1 and 2 Classic catalog that's available on PS4, PS5, through the PlayStation Plus thing. I say PlayStation a lot. Anyway, they're responsible for a lot of those. And they're looking into the possibility of bringing PS3 games to modern platforms, essentially the same thing. Right now, if you're not aware of it, PS3 games are currently only playable via the cloud streaming stuff. We know how I feel about cloud streaming. Or if you happen to actually, own a working PS3, I suppose it works that way as well. But right now on their roadmap, they have a section that's essentially kind of like nice to have, really, rather than this is literally what we're working on next. But it is at least on their roadmap. Researching and prototyping the possibility of a PlayStation 3 emulator package. So a lot of the reasons given for why they don't have the PS3 classics, like a locally downloadable emulator that you can run the games off, is because the PlayStation has a unique architecture. The cell processor situation. If you're not familiar with it, most PCs have one or maybe two dedicated GPUs, and when you are running a video game, a lot of the graphical processing stuff is run off one of those GPUs, usually, unless you are running like very bespoke architecture or one of a handful of really well-known architectures. Most PC game developers won't really know to leverage both GPUs, assuming you even have both GPUs. So typically it's just off the one really powerful GPU. Consoles are a little bit different, but because the architecture is not going to change, so they'll always go on it. Potentially you'll have multiple GPUs. The Xbox 360 I think had two, and so on. But the Cell is a little bit different because the Cell's CPU has 8 cores, and that's a processing thing. So it's not just for its GPU. The GPU also has 8 cores to go with it, but what that basically meant was you could technically run things 8 times faster. So technically, the Cell processor would be better, faster than most typical processors. The problem was, if you wanted to do things for multi-platform and you wanted something to run very well on the PS3, you're essentially having to run 2 separate code bases. And no third-party publisher wants that kind of expense. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot that way. The other issue, though, is that most emulators running off PC architecture also won't have this 8-core situation going on. So getting an emulator to run on that is difficult. Here's the other thing, though, is that PS3's old at this point. And the vast majority of CPUs and GPUs nowadays could run as fast as a Cell processor, and there are PS3 emulators out there. There is one issue to take. The one issue you will have is for PS3 exclusive games would have made use of the Cell processor, and they would have split up a lot of their code base and code base instructions to like sprinkle it to the 8 different processors so you could run things concurrently. It isn't something modern PCs typically do. Not that they don't throw things out to different processors, they do, but it's rare for it to specifically call out a particular processor to say you are doing this. It's usually left to the underlying OS to handle the bandwidth and the workload. Whereas the cell processor was set up in such a way that the developer themselves could specify what gets done on which processor and that kind of thing. Anyway, the point is, it's been long enough now that a single processor could handle what the cell processor does with its 8 cores. Anyway, many PlayStation games are only playable natively on the PS3 or through cloud thing. So we're talking things like Metal Gear Solid 4, which is currently only playable on the cloud on PS3 or if you have a PC. The entire Infamous series, Infamous 1, Infamous 2, Infamous Festival of Blood, those 3. Can't get those. There's Infamous Second Son, but I don't really want to talk about that. Huge chunk of the Killzone series was PS3 exclusive, so that's not really available, and possibly why Sony hasn't gone back to Killzone, because they would have to like resurrect Killzone 1, 2, and 3 and their PS3 games, and maybe it's a headache to get them working, who knows. Anyway, this kind of small bit of editorial, though, is kind of interesting. It's truly a shame to see how PlayStation continues to treat its third generation. Much of what's so good about the platform now, namely its focus on big, shiny first-party experiences, was birthed from the PS3. It's arguably true. The excuses about how technically challenging it might be to get PS3 games running natively on the PS5 hold less and less water as more emulators emerge in the PC scene, running on hardware far below that of a PS5. This is kind of saying that modern CPUs and GPUs could easily handle a cell processor at this point, an emulated cell processor. So if anything, I would say the real issue Sony possibly has is talking to third-party publishers on whether or not they want their PS3 SKUs available. Because the PS3 games was also the beginning of like downloadable games in general, where you could just download the game instead. That wasn't really a thing in PS2, Xbox One days, but it started to become a thing, PS3, 360. That's really when it took off. So there's an argument here that if you had bought the game on the PS3 store, and you still have the disc for it, should it still run properly on this PS3 Classic thing? I'd say there's a legal issue going on there, if anything, that's keeping it at bay. Anyway, it's on their roadmap. We'll see what happens. This week, starting today, Awesome Games Done Quick. So if you need something to keep you busy on what is possibly your first full week back into work, yeah, there's some really interesting things here. Some really fun games. Astrobot Game of the Year. It's just the any percent category, but still, it's fun. It's the Alan Wake DLC as well, if maybe you didn't get around to playing that and so on. One that's really interesting, though. See if I can find it. Probably easier if I just do Control F. Elden Ring. So Elden Ring is kind of interesting because we have the DLC Lockout Bingo. So Lockout Bingo is like, here's all the bosses, or here's a bunch of things, and it's basically a race between 2 or more players to do all of the things before everybody else. But this one that's coming after it, it's a showcase rather than a race, but it's saxophone controlled boss. So that somebody's going to beat all the bosses with a saxophone. Or sorry, not all the bosses, a boss. They're going to beat the final boss of the DLC by playing a saxophone. It's pretty funny. I've seen a couple of VODs of the guy doing it. It's hilarious. It really is hilarious. Crazy Taxi with the live band. Again, amazing. Some really good stuff there. And there's a couple of randomizers thrown into the schedule as well. So keep an eye on that. Starting today at whatever American time. Epic has finished their end of the year giveaway thing where they were giving away a free game every day. So the last game is Hell Let Loose. You have that available until Thursday. Hell Let Loose is a multiplayer World War II first-person shooter type thing. First monthly games of January of 2020-25 rather. 2020, 25? What fucking year are we living in? Right, anyway. January 2025, that's what I was meant to say. Anyway, we got some real zingers here. So, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, which is stopping any of its new seasonal update stuff in February. That'll be the end of it. It's effectively done. I think the servers will stay up for 2 or 3 years or something like that, but eventually it's going to become an offline only affair. But hey, it'll be free now. Give you an excuse to maybe try it. I don't know. One of the biggest flops of last year, and that's what Sony decides to lead January with. I don't know. Anyway, a Need for Speed remastered. No idea if it's good or not. Racing games, who knows? Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe Edition. Stanley Parable is a great meta game, we'll say. The Ultra Deluxe thing comes with a bunch of there's like new content, there's new paths, and then there's a bunch of accessibility features and what have you. If you don't know what the Stanley Parable is and have never played it and have never heard anything about it, just go play it. Don't look up anything. Just go play it. It's really good. It's really, really good. Anyway, those will be available Tuesday for PlayStation. We haven't heard anything about Game Pass yet. I assume they'll get around to it at some point. Those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you wanted to play something right now? Well, presumably you're still working your way through your backlog, hopefully. But if you're really, really desperate and really, really horny, you can play Kingdom Come spelled wrong. Don't tell your mom to get you Kingdom Come Deliverance. She might get you this instead. Anyway, unfortunately though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So confusion remains over Black Myth Wukong's Xbox delay. Developer blames console memory. So this is kind of a back and forth that was happening before Black Myth Wukong came out. There was some allegations that they had an exclusivity deal with Sony for it to only be on PlayStation 5. Sony said no, that wasn't the case. The developer also said no, that wasn't the case. Xbox did kind of intimate that was the case. This is coming from Xbox, we prefer not to comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders. We can confirm that the delay is not due to Xbox platform limitations that had been raised to us. The developer has now come back later to basically say, no, that's exactly the reason why it's been delayed. So they're contradicting Microsoft by saying the game's Xbox delay is due to the Series S's memory limitations, something the Xbox maker has denied. So who's right? We don't, no, it's he said, she said situation. What I will point out is that this is not the first game to have skipped Xbox because of alleged Series S issues. Baldur's Gate 3, Game of the Year winner last year, 2023, also skipped Xbox for a while because they couldn't get split screen co-op working on the Series S. So Xbox has a policy of feature parity for Series S and Series X that has hamstrung games in the past, and has led to them either skipping Xbox entirely or having to get kind of exceptions to the policy. Baldur's Gate, for instance, has an exception to that policy. Split screen co-op still doesn't work on the Series S, but Baldur's Gate 3 is still on it. I would imagine Black Myth Wukong has a similar deal going if it is going to make its way to the Xbox, but we'll find out. You'll be able to do a Series S, Series X comparison. Digital Foundry will probably put out a video about it. But that is typically the reason why. It's because Xbox has somewhat a consumer-friendly policy to say that any features that are available on the Series X version of the game should also be available on the Series S version of the game. It does lead to, of course, this hamstringing and potential for the game to just skip Xbox entirely if it's not feasible to get it working on both the Series X and the Series S. So it is consumer-friendly to a point. And the point is when the product just doesn't show up on the platform entirely. Who's right in that instance? I don't know. I think their feature policy thing should probably have a little more wiggle room than it does. I think there should be some expectation that if you're buying the lower powered, lower spec version, that you might miss out on some things. I think that should be expected, maybe? I don't know. It's a rare like consumer or pro-consumer position for Microsoft to take that I'm disinclined to like smack them on the nose about it, but at the same time it is hamstringing the platform, so I don't really know how to look at it. Anyway, moving on. Sony, there was an interview with Famitsu at the end of last year with Herman Hulst. So there was a quote given by PlayStation president, I think an interim CEO or CFO at the time, basically saying that Sony don't have enough IP. And the expected rebuttal to that from the rest of the internet was, what the fuck are you talking about? You have so much IP you are doing nothing with. Just from this banner, you know, it's Resistance, Killzone, Infamous, I don't know what the bottom left one is, but it's SOCOM actually, I think. Anyway, they have a ton. This isn't even all of them. They're doing nothing on Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, so on. They've tons. Just fucking do something with them, and they don't. Anyway, Herman Hulst had an interview with Famitsu to sort of somewhat assuage and massage fears about this kind of thing. Months after Sony stirred the pot by saying that the company, including PlayStation, doesn't have enough original IP, PlayStation Studios boss Herman Hulst has assured fans that all those beloved dormant franchises haven't been forgotten about. So it should be pointed out that the quote from the CFO was specifically Sony, and it was also specifically directed at like film and TV and games. It was all of them. And it was to say that they don't have enough original IP, film and TV mostly. They weren't necessarily talking about games, but they did lump games in with them, and they most definitely do have plenty of IP. I think what they were mostly looking at was leveraging it to turn them into film. And making Killzone into a film, Infamous into a film, again, could they do it? Yeah. Would it be good? Debatable. It's hard to say. Anyway, people are pointing out, obviously, the ridiculous number of cameos that were in Astro Boss, Bloodborne, obviously, just, you know, revive it and what have you. Anyway, Herman Hulst had to come out and basically say, we're exploring opportunities to leverage our legacy IP as well as develop new franchises. Our extensive IP portfolio is an important asset for PlayStation. Citation needed, I would say, but anyway. The original quote was, whether it's for games, films, or anime, we don't have that much IP that we fostered from the beginning, and it's like, you do. You demonstrably do. Stop being a shithead. Anyway, moving on. Google tries to ban game that inspired Balatro over non-existent gambling gameplay. So we were already talking about how Balatro was hit with the ESRB for an 18+ because it allegedly had gambling in it, even though it absolutely did not have gambling in it, and there are a great number of games that do have gambling in them and are rated as 12s or 10s or whatever. Which is bullshit. Anyway, this is essentially the same thing, but it's a different game. So Luck Be a Landlord is a mobile game which was kind of Balatro, but with a slot machine rather than poker. It's a roguelike deck builder about manipulating a slot machine to pay rent amid an ever-spiraling out-of-control cost-of-living crisis. It's very on the nose, but anyway. Despite the gambling aesthetic, there's no part of the game that actually includes gambling with money, real or virtual, like Balatro. That hasn't stopped Google from trying to retroactively pull it from its mobile app store, so it is already on the store, or was already on the store. And the rollover into the new year must have kicked off some scripting on Google's back end because they flagged the game a little into 2025. Happy New Year, everyone. 3 hours into 2025, I received an email from Google Play support with the following subject line. Action required. Your app is not compliant with Google Play policies. Brackets, Look Be a Landlord. Nothing has changed with Look Be a Landlord in the past few months. There haven't been like updates. They hasn't changed anything about the game. They haven't changed anything about its advertisement, its marketing, anything. Whatever reason, my game suddenly now contains gambling. Yeah, this sounds like somebody kicked off a script for Google, and probably a false positive. But Google, being its typical white tower monopoly, or, well, monopoly, yes, but monolith as well, just doesn't want to listen. It's just said, no, it has gambling. Fuck you. Anyway, this has been an issue in various other countries. The same thing. It's just they see slot machines and just say it's gambling. But they've been left with no choice at this point but to endorse Google's faulty logic. So basically, to keep the game on the store, their attempts to say, like, no, it's not gambling. There's no gambling in the game. It looks like a slot machine, but there isn't any actual gambling. Google have just said no. Google or just computer says no. Anyway, I genuinely think Look Be a Landlord deserves the equivalent of an everyone 10 plus rating across all regions, but at this point I've just given up and will deal with whatever inaccurate rating is slapped on the game now. I've now filled out the Google Play age rating questionnaire to agree that my game contains gambling. I'm doing this in an attempt to stop my game from being banned globally on Google Play, since every time I've tried to appeal these decisions, I've simply been sent a screenshot of my game and was told this is gambling. Great. That's a great experience you've got there, Google. Anyway. Faulty association with gambling is particularly pernicious, considering there are plenty of games on mobile shops that do feature very obvious gambling mechanics, including ones you can spend money on. Hey Billy, how you getting on? EA Sports football game obviously has the, trading card stuff. The Pokemon trading card game obviously has the trading card things. All of that is essentially a slot machine. And then there's the sheer number of gacha RPGs, Genshin Impact, all of the MiHoYo things, Wuthering Waves, that's all gambling. But they're not being slapped with a 18 plus rating, they're being slapped with an E for everyone rating, so it's frustrating. Yeah, I'm not too bad, Billy. I'm cozy, so I've got that going for me. And then we have the Helldivers 2 thing feeding the trolls, which is never really a good thing. The quoted as saying, quoted as saying, maybe make good games, don't make contemporary political statements. Great. It was great to hear a developer saying that. It's really helping us get a handle on the game community shitheads. Anyway. So Helldivers 2 developer, Arrowhead CCO, chief community officer, I guess, and longtime figurehead, dickhead, said, make good games, don't make a contemporary political statement, which is a great thing to say about a game like Helldivers 2, which is an overt political statement, but okay. Anyway, this was a chat about what to bring to Helldivers 3, if there is one, or Helldivers 2.5, or an upcoming expansion, and what have you, and like what kind of things. So it was a chat about those kind of things. This is kind of editorial from Mark Warren, but it was with internet idiots who think Fight Club is just a club. It's just a game. Yeah, it's just a film about a club for fights, which it quite obviously is not. Anyway, a big fan of Arrowhead. I mean, they're doing good things with their community. They're getting a lot of like community buy-in on the game, and it is just super disappointing to have this kind of thing happening. But yeah, basically they were asking, what are your expectations? What are your desires for the next thing for Helldivers, essentially? And one guy comes in and says, never add DEI to your games. And instead of just saying mute, block, fuck off, he decides to entertain it instead. If it doesn't add to the game experience and it detracts, games should be a pure pursuit of amazing moments. How would DEI have benefited Helldivers 2? I don't know. I don't like labels. Mankind is united in its extreme xenophobia on Super Earth. Hashtag inclusion, maybe that's DEI. I don't care. Make good games, don't make a contemporary political statement. So his attempt to sit on the fence here and not take a side is taking a side. It's really disappointing. It's very much feeding the trolls, and it's just dumb because the current Helldivers story right now is about the Illuminate or the Illuminati, or however they're intending you to pronounce it. If it's meant to be the Illuminati, it's spelled wrong, and that's also probably like a political statement. I don't know. Anyway, the Helldivers have killed vast swaths of bloodthirsty alien species, sending a message of what is to come should they choose to continue their aggression. The greatest casualty campaign has been the citizens' own sense of safety. Helldivers are ordered to secure this facility, the construction of the new center. Only then will our citizens feel safe. So they're going to build a re-education center for people who have been brainwashed by the Illuminati. I mean, can you make this any more political? Can you make this any more of a current political thing? Anyway. The Freedom Act, in-game Freedom Act, creates a new security force dedicated to loyalty enforcement and empower them to find and indict Illuminati mind-influenced dissidents and other serious crimes. Come on! Come on! How more political can you get? Anyway, it's disappointing to see some fence sitting. Yes, it is. Very much so. Anyway, we're gonna move on. It being the new year, a bunch of video game developers have put out pretty standard New Year's 2025 cards and messages. Gematsu has done incredible work to just collect all of them, which is insane, really. Let's pick out a random one. Square Enix, what are they doing? Square Enix, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Fantasy VII specifically, Fantasy Ever Crisis, 16. Like they all, and it all of these collapsible menus have it. Sega, Sonic, Sega Japan, Super Monkey Ball, like tons. So yeah, if you have a game that you really like, you'll probably find a greeting card in there somewhere. That's kind of insane. Anyway. Note, content may take time to load due to the sheer amount of embedded tweets. I'm not fucking surprised. Right, moving on. Community things. Skyblivion. Let me just... There's an ad coming up. Hang on. I'm gonna snooze it. Alright, I've snoozed it. Anyway, Skyblivion, the huge Oblivion remake mod in Skyrim's engine, is now in its release year, and its devs only have one region left to complete. So, Skyblivion is this thing that's been in development for quite a while, and it is an attempt to bring Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion into the Skyrim engine. And it's entirely like bespoke models, textures, everything. None of it is reusing anything from Skyrim. It's just using Skyrim's engine. It's not using anything even from Oblivion, which is how they're kind of getting around the legal issue of what happens if Bethesda tries to shit on them, you know, kind of thing. That doesn't mean Bethesda won't. Historically, Bethesda have been kind to fan mods and fan games and stuff like that. Microsoft, however, now owns Bethesda, and they haven't really had to deal with it since. This would be like almost the first time they've had to deal with it. Fallout London maybe is on the fence about that because it technically came out beforehand, but we'll see how it works out for them. Anyway, it's looking really good. They are looking into adding some of the DLC, the Shivering Isles, stuff like that, but it won't be, if it happens, it won't be with the initial release. Anyway, some stage of this year, Skyblivion, while everyone's waiting for the Elder Scrolls 6, waiting, dreading, who knows what modern Bethesda will do to the Elder Scrolls 6. You've seen Starfield. Anyway, Doom is running on another thing Doom probably shouldn't be running on, but it's running on Captchas now. You have to kill 3 monsters to prove you're a human. I apparently am a human because I can't do it. It's really hard. Whatever they're running. We don't talk about Star. We really shouldn't. For good reason. I think it's running on like at least Nightmare or Ultra Nightmare difficulty because it's insanely hard. Anyway, if you want to run it yourself, you can. It's available. I have the link and will be in the paste bin. Unfortunately, though, you're probably not going to see this just lumped into any kind of Captcha thing because it's just an ad, really. You're unlikely to see this one in the wild. It's really just an elaborate advertisement for front-end as a service product Versal. So this is their just sort of fun little viral marketing kind of thing. Anyway, this is kind of what it looks like. You click into it, and then it's the arrow keys and space. But it's like I'm already fucking dead. Like this is so hard. Am I a human? Am I a human yet? No, I'm still not a human. I think I got 2 that time. Anyway, it's really hard. I guess I'm not a human being. Right. We don't really have anything new to loop, so we're just gonna loop City of Voices instead, I guess. Anyway, that's the news for 30th to the 5th of January 2025. Obviously not a whole lot happening. There's not a lot of developers, publishers, etc. aren't even back in work yet. A lot of them, or if they are, it's it's very slow going right now. The only full week of work will be next week. One thing you can look out for, CES, Consumer Electronics Show, something like that, is this weekend in Vegas. So Sony will have a position there, and you may see some stuff from about PlayStation at it. Maybe, not likely. The Consumer Electronics Show is usually like TVs. And Sony have a wealth of TVs and cameras and other things that they do that aren't PlayStation. So that's likely what they'll be talking about rather than anything to do with PlayStation. But you might hear about it from like investor speeches and stuff like that. I think Microsoft also have a position there at CES. Nintendo probably don't. I wouldn't imagine so. You might hear some things from Nvidia. Again, they'll have a position there. They'll be talking up a bunch of AI shit. So that's where they're making all their money right now. But again, you might hear something about the GPUs and that kind of thing. You do also have Awesome Games Done Quick, which is starting today in the US. It should be in the next couple of hours. It should be kicking off if it hasn't already started. So that's something to look forward to. Elsewhere on the channel, I did do a roundup, 40-ish games coming soon in 2025. Initially, this was going to be like 200 plus games. It's like, I can't do this. I can't edit for 200 fucking things. It'll kill me. So I whittled it down to like 100 as well. And it's like, that's still way too much. So yeah, I got it down to like, these are the games that I'll definitely play. As opposed to, I'm waiting to see how it turns out. And also as opposed to, I'm not even sure if it'll come out yet. You know, like there's, like, we had games like Mass Effect 5 were on the list. Maybe it'll come out in 2025. I doubt it. It might though. Half-Life 3 was on the list. It's like, that's not coming out. Hollow Knight Silk Song. I don't know. Maybe. You never know. Maybe it's a Switch 2 exclusive or something. Who knows? Some games that I was looking at is that, or rather, there's some kind of notable absentees, and like there's nothing from Nintendo. And I was kind of thinking about it is that it's probably because Switch 2 hasn't been announced yet, and they, I would imagine, have a lot of games lined up. Maybe not a lot of games, but they have a decent lineup of games ready for Switch 2. Metroid Prime 4, we haven't heard anything about since it was announced. Likely it's a Switch 2 launch game. That's how I would look at it. That'd be my feeling. Silk Song, if it is a thing, probably also a Switch 2 thing. We'll see, I guess. There's a bunch of other games missing on it as well that I'm not even interested in. I mean, Civ 7 technically comes out this year, but I don't care because I'm not going to play it. Anyway, that video is up on YouTube. If you want to check it out, feel free to do so. Off stream, over the New Year's, I played and finished Jusant. I actually platinumed it as well. This is from Don't Nod. So this is the Life is Strange people, or Vampire, or some other games. This is like a puzzle mountain climbing type game. I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and the climbing mechanic is really well thought out. It's pretty straightforward. Like it's the triggers to use your hands, and that's it. But still, even with that, there's a lot of like different just situations you'll find yourself in. I thought it was really good. The story has a kind of environmental beat to it, in like, you know, climate change and that kind of thing. But I think it also has a sort of, it's not exactly an anti-tradition thing, but it's more a case of, are our traditions really helping us, or are they holding us back, kind of thing. And I thought that was interesting. But yeah, Jusant is, I think it's in the PlayStation Plus catalog, so if you have that subscription, you should have Jusant. And I think it was free on Epic a while ago as well, so it's possible you might have it on the Epic Games Store. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was really good. You guys could give it a shot if you have access to it. I've started playing Sonic Frontiers, because again, it's on the PlayStation Plus catalog. I don't like it. I will come out and say I'm not really a Sonic game fan. Sonic as a character, yeah, I like him. The Sonic games, not really. They've always felt kind of clumsy and frustrating to play to me. So I'm clearly not, you know, the demographic for Sonic Frontiers. But yeah, I'm not really enjoying it. I'll finish it. I'm not sure if I'll go the whole way and like platinum it. Although the platinum looks like it's pretty easy, so maybe I will. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I was actually expecting to enjoy it either, but anyway, I figured I'd play it and see what it was like, and yeah, I'm personally not really enjoying it. Anyway, last thing, we will be getting back to full game streams this week. Not sure when exactly, because I need to ease myself into work first. So we'll see how that goes. And then maybe closer to the end of the week, we'll get back to game streaming. So we were in the middle of Hollow Body. I need to refresh myself on what's going on in that. But we will pick back up from wherever we stopped in Hollow Body and probably finish it. I don't think it's that long a game. Hollow Body, if you guys don't remember, you are a black market courier who has gone outside of the safe environment of the mega city to look for your friend or your sister or somebody, your lover potentially. Not entirely sure yet who they are to us. As you get out of the safe environment, something goes wrong with your hover car. Doesn't work anymore. You're stranded in these sort of badlands. And then Silent Hill 2 things happen. Basically, not even Silent Hill 2, just Silent Hill things in general start happening, and that's where we're at, more or less. Anyway, that'll be the plan for next week. So that's it from me for today. Thanks, Billy, for keeping me company, and anyone else. Billy's probably stuck in an ad. Yeah, Billy's probably stuck in an ad. I'll give him a chance to come back. It's only a minute. Anyway. I'll leave this to loop. Anyway, that's Hollow Body. Yeah, so we'll probably start... We will start video game streaming again in this week. Probably the end of this week. Not sure exactly when. But probably that. Anyway, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your day. Billy's back. Thanks, Billy. Thanks for keeping me company as well. And I'll see you guys on the weekend. Right. Have a good one. Or during the week, not on the weekend. During the week, some stage. I don't know. I'm going. Goodbye. Goodbye.